This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Sunday.
Gotta keep them separated. Welcome back to the Sunday Groove. I'm back to talk to you about some awesome music as always. And I even brought back my gimmick, even though I'm going to quickly get out of that voice, because that will kill my throat very quickly. I had so much fun last month with my guest Andy. I actually invited him back for a repeat appearance. So I guess I'll go ahead and do my quick intro to him. Is Andy from Survey Says. That is your only show, isn't it, Andy?
Yeah.
Yeah, and probably my... So, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I'm just Survey Says with Tim Capel. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. I didn't forget about Tim. I just forgot to say his name. Thanks for coming back, Andy.
Well, thanks for having me back. That's awesome.
Yeah, as the listeners probably know, I know I've used to give a little more listener feedback. I hadn't been doing that as much recently as far as on the show, but Andy's been the probably most interactive, at least for a few months now, probably several months now, as far as giving me ideas and giving me feedback on my shows, so I always appreciate that. Last month we did concerts, and this month we're going to kind of go back to a topic I enjoy a lot. But first, we're going to do current spins as always. So let's play the current spins jingle.
Current spins, what you've been listening to. Current spins, it can be old or new. Current spins. All right, current spins, as is said in the jingle, is just any music we're currently listening to. It doesn't have to be current albums, although half of mine is current albums, like very recent releases. But Andy, what have you been listening to currently?
There's been a lot of current stuff that's coming out that I've really been digging, and I think it was right after we recorded the last episode. I saw the Smashing Pumpkins in concert, and this band opened up for them called Metric, and so that's been my current spin. I've been listening to their back catalog, and then they just put out a new album yesterday called Art of Doubt, which is really good.
Nice. I know I've heard them, but I've not listened to them in a long time, if I remember. But I know I've heard of them and probably did listen to some of their stuff a while back. They must have been opening for somebody I was wanting to go see, because I can't think of where I would have heard them otherwise.
Well, they had some song that I was kind of familiar with called, I think, it's called Help I'm Alive, which was maybe 2009 or 10. And around then they had a song in the Scott Pilgrim movie. I think they were the band that was like the Clash at Demon Head. That was at Envy Adams. I think she lip sync to a song, and then I think they used a Metric song.
Oh, nice. So you got their new album and been enjoying it, is what you said?
I haven't gotten the physical copy yet. I ordered it, but I've been listening to it on Apple Music, just on my phone, the last day.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I'll have to check that out. When you said you had a current release, I was thinking something completely different. But with you being...
current, like hot off the press. Although Slash had one yesterday, but I didn't get a chance to listen to it yet because I've been going through theirs. I just went to that one first.
Right. Well, cool. Yeah, it's Well, since you mentioned it, I will actually go ahead and pitch to that. Slash had his new album, as Andy said, came out yesterday, Living the Dream. And I've listened to, I think, a little more than half of it earlier. I didn't get a chance to finish it. I was kind of jumping around for the purposes of remembering stuff for current spins. But another really solid album. But actually, while talking about Slash, I want to give a little love to his first full-length with Miles on vocals, Apocalyptic Love. They came out in 2012. That album's really, really good. I was a little overly, not harsh, but I didn't get as into it when it first came out. I later went back and really fell in love with it. Mostly based on singles, or maybe not singles, but songs. Anastasia, Bad Rain.
Ooh, yeah, I like that one a lot.
Oh, yeah, and We Will Roam. All of those are just really good rockers, and for anybody that knows me, I love, when I'm alone anyway, to walk around like I'm a rock star and kind of have that swagger and everything of a lead singer while I'm singing to songs, and I can't help it when that album comes on, those 3 particular tracks, like that's just how I am. And so I don't know, it just has that rock star swagger that I love so much. And are just really good musically as well. Slash, he is one of those musicians that keeps on putting out incredible stuff, still all these years later. And Miles, as anybody from the show, anybody who's listened to the show before, knows I'm a huge fan of Miles Kennedy from Alter Bridge. So the new album came out. It's awesome. Was it a couple years ago? They had what was it called? I just lost my
World on Fire.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I scrolled past it on my phone. Yeah, and that was I love that one. I even felt like that was even better than Apocalyptic Love, and then now Living the Dream. I'm sure we'll live up to that as well. I just, like I said, it just came out yesterday, so I hadn't gone into it too deep. And I know I was trying to avoid listening to the singles too much before I got the album in hand, because sometimes I wear out singles before I even get the album, and I don't like to do that if at all possible anymore. So are there any others that you've been listening to that you want to include, or was it just Metric?
I really did like. I actually did listen to the 3 singles pre-release songs from that Slash album, and I think they're real good. And I think I like. It's called My Antidote. I think that's the one I like the most that they had issued.
Nice. Yeah, that one I've only heard one time, and that was earlier, so I don't know much about it. I know I liked Mind Your Manners a good bit, and what was the other single that came out or that they released early? Do you remember?
Driving Rain was the first one.
Okay. I know I heard it, but that's been a while back, so I don't remember it very well. I wanted to mention another one that just came out, I think last week or the week before, and that is Paul McCartney's newest, Egypt Station.
Oh, nice.
I was so happy that I was wanting to get it, but also wanted to make sure I enjoyed it, because I've been buying a lot of albums lately, so I wanted to make sure it was going to be a really good album. Figured it would be, but it actually showed up on Amazon Music for Prime members, and the album was available the day it came out. So, it came out 2 weeks ago on the 7th. So I've really been enjoying it. It's incredible to me that this incredible musician, all these years later, at age 76, keeps putting out such strong material. He was always my favorite Beatle, and this album he just continues to write really mostly strong songs. A lot of them are just fun, and some are actually incredibly emotional. But it's just, I guess you'd just call it pop rock. He's definitely embracing some of the newer pop things, but it works. And it has some very playful songs that just check the album out. I don't really know how to even go into it without talking really deep about the album. So anyway, Egypt Station, really fun album that he just put out. Have you heard any of the songs off of it?
I've heard one. I think it's "Come On to Me."
Yeah,
the radio station I work for has been playing that, so I've heard that one, and I want to hear the album. I guess I just I need to get caught up on some things.
Oh, it's impossible for me to stay caught up on things. Like I said, if that hadn't been free, I probably wouldn't have heard it for a while. But the ones I want to point out were "Come On to Me." "Happy With You" is one of the more emotional ones, and then just a fun one's called "Who Cares." And then I guess, see, I talked Slash, Paul McCartney. I wanted to throw back a little bit of love to Father Son, One Word, that I talked about last month. I got their new album that came out last week, and it's a very solid album. The best I can describe it is it kind of gives me a Young the Giant vibe. So if you're familiar with them at all, and like them, especially the early stuff, I would definitely recommend checking it out. And even if you're not, just check out some of the songs. I really dig Nothing to No One. My words ran together. Of course, the single I first heard, Charm School, is still my favorite song off the album. But really, I like every song on there. There's only one that I think is a little weaker, but 9 out of 10 is not bad for liking songs in the album. So definitely Father Son. If you hadn't checked them out, definitely give them a listen. And I actually misplaced. I had a piece of paper where I thought I had a fourth one. Oh, yeah. Have you had a chance to listen to Alter Bridge's Royal Albert Hall album?
Actually, not all the way through. I listened to the first CD, then I watched a bunch of the video, and then went back to some of the CD. So I haven't actually went through the whole thing in one sitting, but I really like it.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually the same on that. Well, I haven't watched any of the video other than just like 3 of the music videos when they first were releasing them, footage. I bought the Blu-ray CD combo, but because of me not having surround sound, I actually wanted to experience it in my car first. So I listened to the first disc all the way through a couple times and really dig it. I forgot the other one inside my house, so that's why I haven't listened to it yet, but really dig it. Definitely adds a ton to the album having the string section added in, because it had what was it called? Symphony? Do you remember?
I think it's called the Parallax Orchestra.
Yes, Parallax Orchestra. You're right. So anybody that's an Alter Bridge fan or just wants to try something new, definitely recommend that. Because, like I said, I didn't write down the song names, but there are definitely several of the songs that adds a ton to it, having the orchestra symphony involved with the music.
Yeah, and I liked how they used some, I guess you could call them deep cuts, because like Lover, like they haven't done that one live until this set, so...
Yeah, that's
that
one.
Was neat.
I don't think I've heard that one yet. That was out on the second disc, I guess.
I can't remember, but I don't know what you thought, but I thought all of like the softer kind of like ballads, like they actually fit the orchestra better than like the hard rock ones.
Yes, I would definitely agree with that. Yeah, Lover's one I've been wanting to hear live for a long time, and unless my memory's failing me, I don't think I've ever heard that one live. Oh, nice. It's actually cheaper now than it was when I bought it. Just $3, but still, or $4, something like that. I was trying to look at the set list, see. But anyway, this is an Alter Bridge episode, so I won't go deep into it, but I just wanted to throw out that, because that was definitely something that came out after the last episode and something I was really anticipating. Yeah, it looks like Lover would have to be on the second disc, because in the set list it's like number 16. Because I was like, I don't remember. Yeah, the first disc closes out with Ghost of Days Gone By.
I think I was anticipating it like too much, because I pre-ordered it like I think the first day when they put up the pre-orders, and then, like I was thinking, oh man, yeah, it's the last like Friday in August. Well, no, then like that Friday came and there was nothing, and I'm like, Oh, man. It was like the first Friday in September. So I guess I was way too excited. I thought it was a week earlier.
It happens. Did you get it on the website or did you get it on Amazon?
I got it through the band.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, all right. Any other thoughts on anything current you want to throw out too?
No.
Okay. Well,
I've been obsessed with Metric. I guess that's about it.
Well, cool. Like I said, I'm gonna have to check them out again because I know I've listened to them before because I wish I could remember how I heard of them. That's been several years, so could have been my friend Chris. I know he listens to. Describe the music to me. Is it more like rock? Does it have a little bit of synth involved, or what kind of?
Yeah, it's a little bit of synth, but it's a female singer, and then there's 3 guys in the band, and it's kind of like almost like Depeche Mode, kind of, because it still rocks, but it's kind of like the synthy vibe to it, I guess. I don't know. Like,
okay,
it just sounds really good.
Yeah, that definitely would have come from my friend Chris because he loves female singers more than any other music, pretty much, and so he's always checking out things like that, and he does really dig the synth vibe a lot more than I do. And I'm not talking bad on it at all. That's not usually my bag. That helps pinpoint it a little bit more in my mind. Not that it matters, and I know nobody was needed to know that. It's just me being me. So anyway, after last month, we talked about concerts. I kind of wanted to go back to 90s music because that was one of my favorite episodes I've done in a while, and it kind of, I think it's broad enough that maybe a lot of different listeners will check it out, because sometimes I think, like, when I single in on just one band, that, you know, some people, if they're not into that band, they might just skip that episode because, you know, I don't know, we get in our comfort zone sometimes and only want to check out those bands. So I felt it'd be fun to dive back into the 90s, and Andy and I talked about several different ideas, and he came up with a really unique one, and we thought it would be very fun just to kind of, instead of just focusing on whole albums, just to pick out single songs that we wanted to talk about. And so this is going to be our version of kind of like Casey Kasem's Top 40. This is going to be our top 40 of songs from the 90s. So I know mine is all over the place with different styles and everything, but they were definitely all songs from the 90s. I definitely double-checked because there were a couple I wanted on it that didn't qualify because my memory sometimes falls a little flat. If it came out like 2000 or 2001, sometimes I'll want to put it back in the 90s. But anyway, so can you think of any other better way to describe it than I did, Andy?
That's kind of the way I went. It was like a cross-section of the 90s. Like, I tried to pick some stuff that I liked that would have probably fallen onto the Casey's Top 40, and then I looked them up, and I guess most of them were. They all were, like, either top 10 hits or, like, borderline on the lower part of the top 40. But, like, I feel I got some rock in there, some pop in there. But I know what you mean about bands that kind of, you thought they might have been 90s, or the song was, but I kind of like how some of those big bands, like, still had hits into the early part of the 2000s, kind of before they, like, fell out of the big mainstream.
Right. Well, and with me, I get confused on bands like Outkast. Like, a lot of their stuff I want to put in the late 90s, but actually it was coming out in 2000 and 2001. A lot of the songs I love by them.
Yeah.
But I'll go ahead and throw out some of mine definitely didn't hot top 40, but they were definitely hits. Stuff that might have hit SNL, at least SNL. TRL, Total Request Live on MTV back in the day, at least briefly. So mine might not be quite as top 40 as Andy's, but I think it'll be fun anyway, either way. So without any more ado, Andy, give us your number 40.
All right, on the Sunday Groove Top 40, coming in at number 40, this song was released in October of 1993, and it was actually nominated for a Grammy for the Best Pop Performance by a Duo or Group. And the highest it charted was number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. It's by the Crash Test Dummies.
Nice. That song was recently on my radar. It was it was featured in the movie Tag, and I watched it probably about a month ago, and like for the next week, that was stuck in my head. Nice. Well, that one's definitely not on my list. I love the song, but it is not on my list. We didn't share our list, so we've joked about saying we weren't sure if they would overlap or not. And Andy's pretty certain that they won't, but we'll find out soon enough. So do you have any other thoughts on that song? Oh.
I remember hearing that as a kid, and then, but I don't think I ever saw the music video or anything. But I remember it probably would have been maybe really late in the 90s or early 2000s, because we didn't have Comedy Central yet where I lived. I think we got it like 2002. But my grandparents that live in Indiana, they actually had Comedy Central, so I'd kind of catch that when I was at their house. And they used to do like replays of Saturday Night Live. And I remember the Crash Test Dummies being on there, and it was not what I pictured the band to be or the singer to look like. It was like completely opposite. So it always stood out to me seeing that episode.
What did he look like?
I think he was like really really slender and tall, and I think he might have been a bald guy. I can't.
Oh, okay.
Maybe my memory isn't as good as I thought it was, but yeah, he was just like I remember he was really slender and like a tall guy.
It's always funny to me, like when we hear people, we automatically like visualize something, and so often it's not accurate at all, and it can be really jarring sometimes when we see a band for the first time. Like, whoa, I did not expect that at all. That song, it's funny, I remember the song for sure, but I think I know the Weird Al version even better. I know I mentioned that on one of my last episodes. Sadly, well, not sadly, I love Weird Al. That is definitely where a lot of my song memories come in, is the Weird Al version. Kind of made me more aware of the single. Well, coming in at 39, I'm going to give a little love to a band that I know didn't make it on top 40 with this song, but it definitely was a hit that did make it on TRL, at least briefly. And I wanted to talk about this song anyway, and that is the song No Leaf Clover by Metallica.
Ooh.
Anybody that knows me knows I love Metallica, and that was a song that I was really stoked for because it was first new song in, I guess, 2 years. I was excited for it, but I was also kind of like, what are they thinking when it came out? Because it had symphony in with them. And when I first heard of a symphony back in the 90s, I was a teenager. I just didn't sound like that would work, but it really, really worked well. And I listened to the song just this week, and it holds up very, very well to me.
It's all relative too, because you were talking about Alter Bridge with the orchestra,
right? Yeah, and obviously after hearing Metallica do well with it, I've been way more excited whenever I hear bands collaborate with orchestras. But back in the 90s, I was just wanting really hardcore, heavy Metallica, and not saying it had to be 80s, just thrash metal Metallica, but I just wanted heavy, and so it didn't seem like it would work, but it worked so, so well. And that ominous thing he does in his voice, singing in this song, like the soothing light at the end of the tunnel, this makes me way too happy.
Yeah, I like that one song, like on the album too. I think it was Mine Is Human.
Yes,
it was really good too.
Yeah, our mutual friend Greg, we were actually talking about that not too long ago. That Mine Is Human, like, really never really gets talked about, but it was the other new song for that album. Is anybody that, if they don't know, it was a 2-disc CD thing, but it was a live show with the San Francisco Orchestra, and yeah, it was obviously mostly hits, but they did add in 2 new songs.
I kind of wish they would have put out like studio versions of those 2 songs, just so you can kind of hear the difference.
Right, I'm with you there. That would be really fun. Well, what is your number 38?
Number 38 is one that I didn't even think would have made the top 40, so I kind of already broke my rule already or whatever, trying to find top 40 music. But it's one I wanted to give love to anyways, because I think it's a really good song. But it actually turns out that it was Ozzy Osbourne's only solo single to make the top 40. It charted at number 28. It's actually co-written by Lemmy from Motorhead. It's Ozzy's Mama, I'm Coming Home.
Nice. I didn't realize that was 90s. Cool.
Yeah, it was a No More Tears album, which is probably my favorite Ozzy album, even though everybody's like, oh, man, it's always the early stuff. It's always the early stuff. I actually like his 90s stuff the best. Like, maybe I'm just weird.
I haven't listened to enough of his solo stuff to really know. I know I've heard a lot of Blizzard of Oz, and I love it. But I definitely know the song you just mentioned, Mama, I'm Coming Home. And I'm trying to think. I'm sure I've heard other 90s or so Ozzy, and I like them.
See You on the Other Side was on the next album, which is another kind of ballady one. Mm. But I think that was pretty big at the time.
Nice. What did you say? What year it came out?
This one, I think the album was 91.
Okay.
Yeah, No More Tears, and there was like Road to Nowhere on there. And...
Nice. Yeah, sadly, I didn't write down years on mine. I saw the years when I was making my list originally, but I didn't actually jot it down. So, awesome. Well, any other thoughts on that one?
Just that I was really surprised. Like, I had liked that album for a while, but then I was surprised to find out that Lemmy from Motorhead, he actually, because you think of them being like this, like, thrashy, like grungy, dirty rock and roll, but then he wrote a ballad like this, and I think he wrote like 2 other songs on the album too. I think it was Hellraiser, which they used for a Hellraiser movie, and there might have been another one. I think like I Don't Want to Change the World. So
nice. Yeah, it's hard for me to picture, which I don't have a ton of Lemmy knowledge, but what I do know of him is always the more straight-ahead rockin' stuff. And it's funny you mentioned Lemmy because he actually is a picture of him is in the background of the new Slash album. Like when you get to the back cover, it's the band on a couch, and then a portrait behind him is Lemmy. So I was just thinking about him just yesterday when I opened that album.
Oh, cool. I'll have to look out for that when I get it.
Well, my number 37 is going to be quite different than my first one I picked, and that is going to be the song by Blackstreet, No Diggity.
Ooh.
I can't remember how old I was when I first heard that song. I remember hearing that a lot on the radio growing up, and then in later years, finally got a copy of it on... It's such a stupid name, but it was a CD I found for $2 at Walmart called Booty Hits, and it was just 90s rap and R&B. But it had several tracks I wanted to have that I didn't already have, and that was on there. And I don't know, I get way too excited for good deals anyway. So $2 for a CD, I was pretty stoked. So yeah, Blackstreet's No Diggity features some good rap from Dr. Dre and just good singing. It's just a fun song that definitely encapsulates, there goes my words, the 90s to me.
Yeah, I think if Justin Rosero from Place to Be Nation listens to this episode, he'll really pop for that pick.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Is he big into R&B or?
Yeah, and he's always like I've seen him post stuff to Facebook, like he's listening to 90s on 9 and stuff, and he'll take a screen capture or something.
Nice. Well, I might have to reach out to him just to let him know this is on here, because I have no clue if he's listened to the show or not. I know he's one of the Place to Be Nation alums that I've never had a conversation with. So, I mean, I'm very well aware of him and I've listened to a lot of his stuff. Well, I just take that back. We've communicated about podcasts, just like commenting on when things were shared, like when he guested on Talkin' Pop and other stuff. But as far as other than that, we've never really had a conversation.
He's probably somebody you could reach out to maybe for a future episode too. He's knowledgeable. So
yeah, I should. I really need to get out of my comfort zone and start reaching out. I've got a couple people that I have never had on the show before that I'm planning on trying to get on soon. But I definitely, there's a lot of people that have a lot of music knowledge that I should. I started out with my friends from college, having them on the show, and then kind of branched out to the people I've done Hard Traveling Fanboy episodes with. It's kind of how I started out. So what is your next one?
I'm kind of all over the place too.
Nice.
For number 36, it's like a different genre than the last couple songs, but this one, it spent 5 weeks at number one on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1992. So I guess I'm kind of spending a lot of time in the early 90s as opposed to you being in the later 90s. But then this song was also the second best selling single of 1992, and it's "Baby Got Back" from Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Yes. That is definitely a song that I don't think I've ever it always plays at any time I do karaoke or go to a karaoke place. Yeah. Somebody's always got to do that one, and it's such a fun song.
That basically kind of like screams 90s to me. Like that song is just, like every time that you hear it, you just think about the 90s.
I'm now picturing Sir Mix-a-Lot. He's going to be stuck in my head for a while now. Well, mine couldn't be any more different than that on my next one. And that is a song by a band that I really need to dive more into. I've always heard amazing stuff about them, and I've heard their singles, but I've got a couple of their albums from friends, but I've never... I guess I forget about them, but that is the band Better Than Ezra, Good.
Oh, yeah. They were in Peoria not too long ago.
Oh, nice. Makes me so happy so many 90s bands are still making music or at least still touring.
That's one, your song Good. I think it was used in like tons of movie trailers from like 5 to 97 or something.
Something like that. When I looked it up, it definitely mentioned movies a lot. And I'm sure it's been in several movies. That's probably how I'm more familiar with it actually than on the radio.
The one thing with them coming to Peoria, it was like they played a show with another band that's going to make my list later, and they opened up the show, and I only really remember like 2 songs, Good and like Desperately Wanting. And then I was supposed to post to social media for the radio station while I was there, take pictures and stuff, and post on Instagram. So I made like really bad puns. I was like, we are desperately wanting you to come to the riverfront and check out Better Than Ezra. I think I said something like, it would be good if you were here with us. I don't know.
Nice.
It's just totally stupid, but I was just trying to have fun.
No, I love puns. So that would I know a while back, talking about Foo Fighters, I can't remember who all got involved with it. Russell and a few others were making all puns on Foo Fighter songs a while back. I think that was probably leading up to him seeing them in April, I think. But yeah, they're a band I don't know tons about Better Than Ezra, but I like what I've heard. And I just know it's like a band that you hear all the time, like people from the 90s love. I think my friend Jeremy Reynolds loves them, if I recall.
Not to take over your pick or whatever.
No,
but
go ahead.
What else I remembered from that show was how I was like I think they played like usually an opening band, they only do like half hour or something. Then you have the headliner that does like an hour or whatever. I think they actually ended up doing equal like hour-long sets. And so I was thinking to myself, I'm like, how are they going to fill out like an hour? And they just had like the 2 hits. Well, what they did was they were playing like tons of covers, and it was kind of almost annoying. I'm like, really, they're just going to do covers? But then it got to the point where it kind of turned into like actually like being really fun with them doing all the covers, because they're like, yeah, like we're in Illinois. What are some Illinois bands? So they did a Cheap Trick song. I think they did REO Speedwagon, and then I think they did Chicago too. So it was pretty cool that they were actually just up there having fun. And I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome.
That is really awesome. I love it when bands do at least some covers. When I saw Blackstone Cherry open for Alter Bridge, I know they covered Tom Petty's You Don't Know How It Feels to Be Me. What's the name of that song?
You Don't Know How It Feels, I think. Yeah.
But anyway, they covered that one, and I love it. And it was just kind of fun to hear that there, because I was definitely not expecting that.
When was that show?
That would have been 2011. That was my first time seeing an Alter Bridge.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is. You don't know how it feels. For the longest time, I just knew that one as Rolla Joint or whatever, since that was one of the lyrics of the song. And I wasn't as aware of that one years ago, but it was one that when they started playing it, it just came back to me. So I definitely had heard it a lot of times, but I could never. It took me forever to find out the name of it. It should have been obvious to me, but for some reason, I just always gravitated to the other parts of the chorus. And so, anyway, that was just funny to me. I'm like, oh, that should be obvious. But yeah, that was 2011. So I remember they played that. And speaking of people kind of splitting the time, I thought that was so cool when I saw Tremonti that they split the time with Blackstone Cherry, even though Blackstone Cherry was billed as the headliner for that tour, for the Tremonti tour, since Tremonti as a solo act is a little lower than Blackstone Cherry to a lot of people. But anyway, bring us back on track with your next one.
Well, this originally started when we were throwing out ideas, and we were talking about pop songs, and then we were talking about boy bands, so I figured I have to get a boy band a song on here. And so this boy band coming in at number 34 is surprisingly, they're the 5th best-selling boy band in history. It's NSYNC with Tearing Up My Heart. It was their first single, I guess, and it peaked at number 6.
Nice. Now you said they're the 5th best-selling boy band?
Yeah, which was surprising. So I kind of went to Google a list of who were the other 4 then, which were the top 5, and it was I think Backstreet Boys was number 1, and I was almost kind of surprised that they actually outsold NSYNC, because I thought NSYNC was like above them. Mm-hmm. But I guess maybe that's because I'm thinking because Justin Timberlake is a bigger star now.
Right. I think that's probably the reason why.
But then, well, there's obviously the Jackson 5 was in there. And then
New Kids on the Block, maybe?
New Kids on the Block, yeah. But then the 4th one was really surprising, and I didn't think they were a boy band, but it was the Osmonds. And I thought it was just Donnie and Marie.
Oh, see, I wouldn't count them in there at all. I mean,
yeah.
Okay, that's starting to make a lot more sense, because I was like, I'm going through my head of like BB Mac and what was the one that Nick Lachey was part of?
98 Degrees.
Yeah, I was thinking of all of them, and I'm like, there's no way they're higher. So okay.
Even one of my buddies that I was telling about the show that we were doing, he's like, was the other one Menudo?
I forget about them too. Nice. Yeah, I'm glad you put a boy band on there. There's definitely one on my list as well. Yeah, just a little behind the scenes. I didn't want to go too deep into like grunge or anything like that. I just wasn't in the mood for that. I love grunge and I love a lot of the darker, heavy 90s music, but that just wasn't what I was in the mood for. So I had joked about doing an all boy bands episode. And so that was kind of part of how this idea kept working around to just do top 40. Because I was like, if I don't really want to do grunge and I don't want to go too much in my last one that I'd done 2 episodes back with Miranda, I like to keep each episode a little different. So, yeah, definitely. I like more boy band stuff than maybe I should, but at least nowadays I do.
Yeah, I never really have, but I think that's because at the time, when TRL was on TV, and it was like after school and stuff. My sister, she's 5 years younger, so she was into all of those, even like the Now That's What I Call Music. She had a bunch of those CDs.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think when I got older, like I kind of went back and I'm like, yeah, those are still good pop songs. I kind of appreciate them a little bit more now than I used to.
Oh yeah, I didn't appreciate them at the time because they were taking valuable time up on TRL from bands I wanted to see. And
yes, honestly, I didn't appreciate them at all.
Yeah, it was much in later years through karaoke and stuff like that I started getting more into them. And it's not like I really seek them out a whole lot, but I enjoy them if I hear them. Kind of thing. So now, tell me the name of that song one more time. NSYNC. I'm very aware of them, but that song I wasn't as familiar with.
Oh, just Tearing Up My Heart.
Okay. Yeah, I do remember that song really well. It's not my go-to by them. Mine is Bye 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 has always been mine.
I also like pop too, but that was I think 2000s.
Yeah, it was. I'm pretty sure. Well, another fun transition to one of my favorite bands, especially from the 90s. That is the band Pearl Jam. And I wanted to pull out the song Better Man.
Oh, nice.
It's strange. Like, it depends on the mood I'm in with Pearl Jam, but like sometimes I just want their early 90s rock, like their heavier songs. But then in like recent years, I really dig their softer, more melodic pop songs. And this song falls great into that category. It's just one of those really well written, very beautiful songs, and when I can't change the station if I hear the song, or like I think that when they just recently got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I think this was probably my favorite that they did at that concert.
Yeah, that's on Vitalogy, right?
Yes. Sorry, I don't have too many deep thoughts about it, but I just love the song. It's great lyrics and everything, and just a song that I wanted to talk about a little bit, but my memory is not really jogging anything else at the moment.
I did just revisit that album like a couple weeks ago, so yeah, it is pretty fresh in my mind, and that song still does like stand out as like one of their probably their best ones, I'd say.
Oh, it is definitely. That's one of their albums they started really branching out more on, so some of it's very bizarre.
Yeah, like that Bug song, I was like, what is this?
Yeah, I have to skip through that one, and there's like one or two others I think I skipped through on that, because around that section of the 90s, they really started challenging mainstream music and everything, and just not wanting to just be the grunge band that they were known as. So they really just did some crazy stuff. Their albums, even after that, like No Code and stuff, like don't really dig that many songs off that.
Yeah, because when I was listening to that album again, I was thinking that same thing. I'm like, this kind of seems almost like they're pushing back against like the mainstream on this album.
Yeah, I watched their documentary. It's been several years since I watched it, but when Cameron Crowe did the documentary for the 20th anniversary, so yeah, it'd be like 7 years ago, for the 20th anniversary of the release of 10. It was a 1991 album, so yeah, it would have probably been 2011 when that came out. And what I remember from it was definitely that they loved challenging things such as Ticketmaster, and like not allowing their stuff on Ticketmaster and stuff like that, and just really not wanting to be known as just that one style. And just Eddie Vedder's a weird dude. I like him, but he's a weird dude. So he definitely wanted to keep it fresh, but that could be one of the reasons they're still such a popular band, because they're not afraid to try new stuff, and some of it works, and some of it, like Bugs, does not. I'd be shocked if we get called out and somebody like, I love Bugs. That would be probably the most shocking thing possible.
All right. Well, I guess we will move on down the countdown at number 32. I've got one. This is the band that had performed in Peoria with Better Than Ezra. It's the Wallflowers, and this is their lead single from their second album. It was number 8 on the modern rock charts, and I found out that Jacob Dylan, he actually wrote the song when he was 18 years old. It's a 6th Avenue Heartache.
Nice. Love that song. He wrote that song when he was how old?
18.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Pretty impressive.
Very impressive, yeah. Yeah, you said that's off Bringing Down the Horse, which is definitely my favorite of their albums. I won't say it's their best because I haven't really listened to all their albums.
Yeah, I haven't either. I've really only listened to that one, but that's got was it The Difference was on there and One Headlight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember it was one of the first CDs I bought when I got Amazon and started using it regularly, and that was back when they still do, but it's not as big of a thing, where, outside vendors would sell through it, and so just a lot of 90s stuff, like new copies that I guess just hadn't sold yet, people would sell it, so I just had to pay shipping basically in a very cheap rate, so I think I got it for like $4.50 or $5 with tax and shipping and everything. And so I was like, gotta have this album because I'd heard so much good things about it.
Yeah, I really like this song the most from that album because I think it's got the it's because of the slide guitar. I really like songs with slide guitar, but then I found out too when I was looking up the song is that Mike Campbell from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, he actually played that on the song. Oh,
I can totally picture that, and that makes perfect sense because I know he uses a lot of slide guitar on Petty songs.
Yeah, and it said that they didn't actually even meet face to face. He just recorded it in the studio and then sent him the track.
Oh, that's kind of disappointing. I mean, it's cool either way, but I just can imagine being a young musician would have loved to have met up to do that.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like I kind of was trying to go all over with the 90s and try to kind of pick bands that I don't normally get a chance to talk about, and so so it's pretty cool. I guess revisiting some of these songs.
Right. Well, cool. I will neither confirm or deny if they are on my list, but I will say it's not that song if they are. Not that I totally gave it away or not, but my next one, I will actually give a shout out. I'm going to dedicate this one to one of the Hard Traveling fanboys, Greg Phillips, and that is the song by Montel Jordan, This Is How We Do It. Anytime this song comes on, if we're around each other, we both just jump into singing it as just one of our go-to anthems, and it's one that I keep wanting to karaoke, but I never have thought of it when I karaoke, which, not that I do that very often, but when I've gotten up the nerve to do it, I don't know why I've never thought of that song, but it's what I think would be fun. Is that one you're very familiar with?
Yeah. I know all these songs, but yeah, I don't know if I have an attachment to it like you and Greg.
Well, it was on my. I don't know why I love it so much. It's really hard to probably explain, but I know it was on my Booty Hits CD that I earlier mentioned. That was actually the reason why I bought it, was for this song. This song, and there was, I think, one other silly 90s song that did not make my list that I was wanting a copy of. But decided instead of going to Amazon and just downloading that song for $1 or $2, I just got the CD and was very happy for it. I don't know. It's just not that I'm a partier, but just it's a good party song. It's a good dance song.
Yeah, I think that it would have been a good a club song, yeah, back then.
Oh, I can imagine. Obviously, I definitely wasn't clubbing at the time it came out. That would have been highly illegal. A little 10-year-old in the club, that'd be interesting.
So that was your number 31 then?
Yes. Sorry, I forgot to throw my number in there. Yeah, 31.
Awesome. So then you want me to move on?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Coming in at number 30. This was the first single from the Beastie Boys album called Hello Nasty, and it was number 28 on the Hot 100, which was their third top 40 hit, and it was Intergalactic. And this is a song that is like basically the summer of '98 for me, because you could not escape that song.
Nice.
I remember that the summer going into high school.
That is,
I think same age, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm born in '84, so that would have been. I'm sure I heard it at the time, but I don't remember getting as into it until high school for whatever reason.
Intergalactic.
Planetary, intergalactic.
Yeah. I'm not as good at singing as you are, so I
Well, I don't know if I consider the robot voice to be singing, but thank you.
It was kind of funny when I was listening to the song, too, because I forgot that there's a little thing at the end with that one rapper, like Biz Markie, and he's doing some little freestyle thing at the end of the song.
Oh, I definitely don't remember that. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think it's cut off on the radio, but listening to the album version, it's like on there.
Nice. That is a band I know we've talked about before. I'm more familiar with their 80s stuff. Like, I know their 90s stuff. I love License to Ill. It was the first Beastie Boy album I had, and the main one I listened to. But I definitely knew this song and Sabotage and stuff like that.
Yeah. Or what's the other one? Paul's Boutique. That's an album that's got a lot of early 90s ones, I think.
Okay. That is just such a bizarre name for a rap album.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I've never been like a really huge Beastie Boys fan, but like this song always stood out to me, and then like obviously You Gotta Fight for Your Right, you know, everybody knows that song.
Mm-hmm.
But then yeah, they've never really been a favorite, but I've just had some songs that kind of stood out to me.
Oh yeah. They're just fun to sing along with, but yeah, the only album I listened to all the way through was License to Ill, and that was one of my cassette purchases back when cassettes were becoming less of a thing, so I probably bought it dirt cheap. I was actually trying to pull up my next one so I could give more details of it, but I'm messing up somehow.
You're going to try to pull up the Biz Markie rap.
No.
Who basically, like, if I would try rapping, I would sound like that guy.
Yeah, he's not exactly what I would consider a really good rapper.
You got what I need.
Yes. Well, my next one is by one of our listeners' favorite bands, and that is Bush. And I'm going to go with probably one of the first songs I knew by them. Used to play on our rock radio station all the time, and that is Everything Zen. And I know as a kid, I thought it was everything, like everything is in. I didn't realize it was Zen, because I didn't get that album until way later, but really dig that song. As one of those that I can't switch the station if it comes on. I just really dig it. But I know Jason Sherman reached out to me a while back after I did the 90s episode, because he said he checked that album out, or that episode out, thinking that Bush would be on there. And I'm like, sorry, they didn't make it, but they're definitely an important band from the 90s to me. Just wasn't one I got as deep into until much later.
Yeah, the same for me, because it's like I was never really into them like in the 90s or even into the 2000s, but like they were always on the radio, you know, so I was always kind of like, oh, like I guess I was aware of them, but I wasn't really like, they weren't my favorites, because if I would pick like a grunge band or whatever that was my favorite, I'd go with like Alice in Chains or Stone Temple Pilots, and
right.
they were far down my list, but then I did go see them in concert because they were opening up for another band I wanted to see, and they really blew me away with how many, I guess, hits that they had, and then that they were all from that first album too, and they're really good live. So.
Yeah, I know you've told me that. Jason's told me that. Can't think if I have any other friends that have gone to see them, but I know my friend Russell was really big into Bush when I met him, and so I know early college was when I started getting into them more. Well, actually, early to late college. So I really, I knew the hits, but as far as digging into the entire albums, that was definitely later down the line. So that was definitely why they couldn't make it on my first 90s episode, because I was focusing on just albums that I really dug during the 90s.
Yeah, yeah. I guess we're the same in that regard.
Yes, definitely. Well, who would be your next? Your number 28.
28 is another band that's kind of like Bush. I was always aware of them. I liked them, but I haven't really owned too many of their albums. But it's not that I don't like them. I just I've never been totally into them. But so I was kind of going back and forth on which song I wanted to make the cut, because I didn't want to. I only wanted to use one from one band if I was gonna if they were going to be included on the list. So the one that I kind of marked off was Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me. But what did make the list was U2's Mysterious Ways. And nice. It was a second single from, I hope I'm not butchering it, but it was Achtung Baby. And it was released on November the 25th, 91. And it was number 1 on the modern rock charts, but only number 9 on the Hot 100. But yeah, that's such a good song.
I'm going to have to listen to that after the show, because that is not coming to mind for some reason. The first one you mentioned, the Hold Me, Heal Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, or whatever. I know I got the order wrong, but that was one of my favorites off the Batman Forever soundtrack. And I listened to that over and over and over again.
You would know Mysterious Ways because it's got a really distinct kind of wow, 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 or whatever, and it's she moves in mysterious ways.
Oh, I just had a brain fart. Yeah, it's there. That's all I needed.
It was kind of when they were really going kind of pop, because I think that's kind of when people maybe were kind of turned off from them, and I think they even had an album called Pop after that. But yeah, they were kind of moving into that kind of dance, kind of electronic a little bit, but this was kind of bordering on rock, but kind of pop.
Nice.
It's still a good song. It's just awesome.
Yeah, they've always been a band. I know their hits, but they're really, as far as full albums, it's kind of a blind spot. I know they're one of my friend Andrew Garner's favorite bands. And I know he got me to listen to the Joshua Tree just a few years ago, or actually just a year ago, after I had him on. We were talking about that album, and I'd heard a lot of the songs off of it, but never the whole album. So. Anyway, they're kind of a blind spot outside of their hits in that album.
Yeah. I guess going back to that, the song from Batman Forever, I really like that because I remember getting a comic book, a version, a graphic novel or something of that Batman Forever album, and it came wrapped in cellophane, and inside the cellophane was a little CD single of that song.
Nice. That was one of the albums I never owned, but my brother had it, so I just borrowed it from him all the time. I think I made a cassette copy of his CD and jammed out to it. But I remember that was because of that song and a few others off of Batman Forever. I didn't even hear, but I think one song off of Batman and Robin soundtrack before I purchased it, just because I was like, man, those Batman movies have awesome soundtracks. I'm just going to buy this.
Yeah. Nothing from my list made, I guess nothing from Batman and Robin made my list, but that was a soundtrack that I had on CD that I think I played out for months straight.
Nice.
With the Smashing Pumpkins songs, I think it had R. Kelly. I think it had Goo Goo Dolls on there too.
I'm trying to think. The Smashing Pumpkins one was on the Batman and Robin. And let's see. I can't remember those others.
Yeah, those soundtracks were good though.
Oh yeah, they were. The song, the lead song off of Batman and Robin, the Smashing Pumpkins one, I thought was better used in the Watchmen movie, especially the trailers for it. Just kind of fit the theme of the movie, felt like.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, they use that too.
Yeah, I remember getting ridiculously excited when I heard that in the first trailer for it, which of course was a movie I was super stoked for because of my comic book love and psychology type love, and that's one of the more psychological comic books. Okay, well, my number 27 is by Green Day, and I picked a song that I'm not going to say it's probably the second or third song I got into by them, but that is When I Come Around. And it was a huge hit for them, and it was just a fun one to drum along with, even if it's just air drumming. It's just a really fun rock song.
Yeah, that one is really good. Like, it'd be in like my top. If I was coming up with the Green Day list songs, it would be near the top.
Oh yeah. Like, it's not the first one I think of. I think Basket Case will always be the first one I think of by them, because that's definitely the first one that stood out to me when I heard them. But When I Come Around would definitely be one of my favorites. But pretty much anything off Dookie or Nimrod are just some of my favorite stuff by Green Day.
I just had like a really weird like flashback for some reason talking about soundtracks and like Green Day. Like, I remember, I think Green Day was on the Godzilla soundtrack, and like to make it fit the soundtrack, they just kind of added random Godzilla like screams in the song. Did you ever hear that one?
Yes, actually, I went back and revisited it because all I remembered was that the song Brain Stew was on the Godzilla soundtrack. But I remember when you jokingly recommended that one for a soundtrack episode, I went back and listened to it, and I'd forgotten that the remix was just the Godzilla sounds in with in with the Brain Stew song. And I was like, what the crap? Like, I don't think you needed to remix it. I think you should have just put the song in there.
Yeah.
So what do you have next on your list?
Number 26 is this band. They've had hits in the 70s, 80s, now in the 90s, and it's Aerosmith, Living on the Edge. It was
nice.
From Get a Grip, and it was number 18 on the Hot 100, but on the rock charts, it was number 1 for 9 weeks.
That, embarrassingly enough, even with my love of Aerosmith, that is definitely one of the songs I was first familiar with the Weird Al version. I had a blind spot from Aerosmith. Like, I knew their 70s stuff first, and then like later heard more of their 90s stuff, and so I knew Living in the Fridge.
Yeah, like I guess I kind of, like, being a 90s kid, that was my introduction, like, to Aerosmith, where like a lot of these songs, and then because of the MTV videos, you know, with Alicia Silverstone and stuff. But then I think when I got older, then some people were like, that's just pop Aerosmith. You got to listen to the older stuff. But I think now I've kind of ignored that, and I'm like, I like all eras of Aerosmith. I don't care. Oh,
I'm with you there. I mean, my favorite is definitely the 70s through the 90s. The newer stuff I like, but not as much. But I can appreciate any of it, except for the 2 albums that they did without some of their key members. Those were not as good. That was in the early 80s, back when they were arguing more and having to take breaks for rehab and everything. And definitely not saying that lightly, but that definitely was a big part of their 80s history. Yeah.
True.
And probably one of the reasons they weren't writing as good as stuff because they were having too much trouble with their drug problems to properly write songs. And I imagine that would be tough. But yeah, so pretty much I've always been more partial to the 70s, the late 80s, and then I guess pretty much any of the 90s stuff I love.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of outside of our window, but I almost was about to include like Jaded, but I remember that was early 2000s. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been easy to be confused on. I almost jokingly put Pink on mine, as I do like that song, as cheesy as it is. But I actually forgot about it by the time I was actually finishing up my list.
Speaking of that, I remember, I think that came out, 98?
The album came out in, I think, 97, but that single probably came out in 98.
Yeah, because I was I remember being at the mall with my grandma, and that was around the time where I was I was probably more aware of albums and stuff and buying CDs, and I really wanted that album, but I think one of the tracks has "bitch" in the title, and my grandma just nope, you're not getting that.
That actually might be why I didn't buy that album. Now at that time, now that you mentioned that, because I had
got down by grandma.
Yeah, because I know there were a lot of albums that my mom would read the titles of and be like, "Nope, ain't gonna happen." But yeah, that one has, yep, "Ain't That a Bitch" is the name of the song. So yeah, that would have got shot down by my parents as well. So I just had the CD single Pink, which had "Taste of India" on it as well, off of 9 Lives. But yeah, 9 Lives came out in 97, and actually it says Pink was released at the very end of 97, November of 97, late November.
Oh, I was thinking of 98 because that was the Armageddon song.
Ah, yeah.
That was 98.
Well, I'm sure it was still getting played a lot in 98, but according to Wikipedia, it was November 18th of 97, so not much left of 97 when it came out.
So what you got for 25 then?
Number 25, I have, it's just a fun poppy song from the 90s, and that is by the band Blues Traveler, "Runaround."
Yeah.
That one was definitely inescapable in the 90s, and it's still one of my favorites just to put on random 90s albums and mix CDs back when I was still making those, and it's hard not to sing along with if it comes on the radio. Pretty much their band, I need to go back and listen to more of their stuff. I know Runaround and I know Hook, but that's about it. But I definitely, one of my favorite things about them is that they have harmonica in that song, and I love most anything with harmonica in it. And that's probably because of Aerosmith, I'm sure, because that was one of the first bands I can think of that I heard harmonica in. But that's been kind of get really excited when harmonica's played well in a song.
Oh yeah, one friend of mine that likes he's my YouTube friend, and he's the guy I was talking about this list. We were kind of jokingly saying we could make a list of best harmonica songs. So it's funny that you had mentioned that too.
Nice.
Because we were listening to music at work, and I think In Excess, Suicide Blonde was playing, and I was like, yeah, harmonica.
I don't know if I know that song. I know In Excess, I definitely remember them, but I know I Need You Tonight and stuff like that.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have to do an In Excess or an 80s song list next time.
Well, I am definitely wanting to do an 80s episode, but I wanted to kind of steer it a little later than the 80s competition, since I knew I didn't want any confusion or anything, since that's been such a big part of Place to Be Nation, which I've enjoyed voting in that a lot, but I kind of didn't want to steal any thunder from it or anything. Maybe it would have piggybacked well, I don't know, but I just, in my thinking, I'm I'll do 80s later.
It could be a good crossover.
It could be. Yeah,
you could get Justin for that one.
I might. I hadn't really thought that far ahead. I know I've got a couple ideas in mind that I definitely want to do pretty soon, but definitely want to do 80s down the line. But But I want to take a quick break. I know that I was planning on breaking up at 20, but I need to take a quick break right now. So everybody come back on the other side.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, pro wrestling announcer Kevin Kelly here. I want to make sure you are all subscribed to all the great feeds here at Place to Be Nation. It's really easy to do. Just head to iTunes or your preferred podcatcher app today and search and subscribe to the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed, which of course includes the full archives of the Kevin Kelly Show, the Place to Be Nation pod feed, and the Pro Wrestling Only feed. Subscribe, listen, and then rate us and leave feedback today. And be sure to give Justin your true thoughts. I mean, don't hold back. After all, he is kind of a jerk. Just listen to Scott.
Place to Be Nation's JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have a ton of great podcasts available to you on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlaceToBeNation.com. We offer them to you on two great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed, we bring you the Mothership, the Place to Be podcast, along with Main Event, Survey Says, the Monday Night Wars, and our monthly pay-per-view reaction show, as well as Jeff Learns Wrestling. In addition to these full-length shows, we also deliver special network podcasts and pod blasts on topics old and new.
Over on the Pro Wrestling Only feed, we dive deep inside the wrestling business with a stacked army of experts leading the way. The feed features potpourri shows such as This Week in Wrestling, Greetings from Allentown, Match of the Week podcast, and the Military Industrial Suplex. We also have shows that focus intently on certain topics like Through the Years, Worldcast, Strong Style History, Strong Style Story, and Mount Olympus. Plus, the feed has the full archives of legendary shows like Titans of Wrestling, Where the Big Boys Play, Letters from Center Stage, and Letters from Kayfabe, plus much more. And on our very popular Place to Be Nation Pop podcast feed, we offer such great shows as Talkin' Pop, the Glenn Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular, NBA Team, PTBN Play, Sunday Groove, Breaking Balls, and Lucha Undead,
as well as a veritable podcast heaven for comics fans
with the hard-traveling fanboys, Sellers Points, Todd Weber's Conversations, Geek and Sassy, and Marvel Age podcasts.
You can find all of these current shows, plus archives of our past podcasts, including The Kevin Kelly Show, as well by subscribing to both feeds on iTunes. And while there, be sure to rate and leave feedback today. All these shows, plus others, available at PlayStation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth stretch projects and more. Be sure to support our site by using PlayStation.com/Amazon when doing your online shopping, and download our free PTB Vintage Vault Refresh ebooks via the links on our site. We also want to thank our friends at Boneheads Wing Bar in West Warwick, Rhode Island, and Fall River, Massachusetts, and thehistoryofwrestling.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlayStation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Hi there. Have you recently gone through a crisis? Did you find out your friends have been lying to you for years to cover up something they did? Have you discovered that one of your bitter enemies might actually be 3 people? Were you seemingly killed by a new god only to find yourself quantum leaping through time until you make it back to the present? Was your entire reality wiped out in a cosmic battle between 2 godlike beings only to be reborn, destroyed, and reborn again? Then join me, Russell Sellers, and my special guests as we help you manage your post-crisis life in DC Post-Crisis Management, a limited monthly series starting in September. We can't promise you closure, but we will try to avoid destroying your hometown and turning you into a homicidal maniac who wipes out time.
Welcome back to Sunday Groove. top 40 of the 90s. I've got Andy back here with me. And we are going to continue the list at number 24. So what do you have at number 24, Andy?
Number 24, this is going to be a long-distance request and dedication. All the way out to Cuba, Illinois. My friend Bob Long. He actually put this band on my radar. And they were kind of one that was maybe in the hair band genre. But I think they're way beyond the hair band genre. They were kind of lumped in there because they had one hit, this one huge hit that was a ballad, but they're kind of, like I said, they're more than that. It's Mr. Big and To Be With You, which was actually the second single on their album, Lean Into It. It was released on November 25th, 1991, the same day as U2's Mysterious Ways. And this song reached number 1 on the Hot 100. It was number 12 year end for 1992, and also number 90 of the decade. And another fact that I noticed about this song was that Eric Martin, the lead singer of Mr. Big, he originally wrote this song in his teens too.
Nice. That is a great song. It's not one that made my list, but that is a really good one.
Because I'd always heard that song. I thought it was like a cheesy ballad. I'm like, whatever. It's a girly song. But then the one guy, the singer of that group, Eric Martin, he came to our area in Central Illinois a couple of years ago, and he did an acoustic show. And he's actually a really hilarious guy, and he's really funny, and he's like an entertainer, and he was joking around with people like before and after the show. And so I really want to see like Mr. Big now, because I think they'd put on a pretty good show, but they're not really that big over here. They're like huge in Japan.
Oh, really?
Like almost kind of like Alter Bridge. They play like huge arenas overseas, but then when they come here in America, they're doing like clubs.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when you say girly, I can never hear the term girly without thinking of Arnold Schwarzenegger. When he says, "You're a girly man," and I do a horrible Arnold voice, as you just heard. Do you have an Arnold Schwarzenegger voice?
Yeah, but I don't know what to say. Hasta la vista, baby.
Get to the chopper. Yeah, I just watched Predator recently.
Who is daddy, and what does he do?
I loved this video he had done in recent years. Was put the cookie down. Just trying to tell people to eat healthier.
That sounds like something that was from Kindergarten Cop.
It probably is, actually, but they started kind of using it.
Put down the cookie.
Yeah.
2 blows. All right, sorry, we're getting off the rails.
Oh, that's okay. I kind of sometimes enjoy doing that. Didn't in the first half, shockingly. Well, kind of did, but not as much. Well, it's funny. This is appropriately enough a song that was actually on one of the Batman soundtracks. I almost moved it up on a list to make it more organic, but I kept it where it was. But it is Jules' Foolish Games, sorry. And that was from 1997, and that was on the Batman and Robin soundtrack. I remember really getting into Jewel around that time and listening to several songs by hers. I don't think I had the album until years later, but through soundtracks and other things, I heard several of her songs, probably just the radio. But Foolish Games, still to this day, I think is my favorite song by her.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a favorite song, but I really like that song on that soundtrack.
Yeah, it fits in really well. That's just an incredible soundtrack I'm looking at right now. Has Smashing Pumpkins, Bone Thugs, R. Kelly, R.E.M. I didn't remember R.E.M. being on there. Goo Goo Dolls, Lazy Eye, one of my favorites.
Was Soul Coughing on there too?
Yes, they had a song called The Bug on there.
They seem to be on a lot of 90s soundtracks, I think.
I used to get them confused, and probably still do, as far as by name, just with Soul Asylum. So that's definitely a 90s band as well.
Yeah.
Well, who would be your number 22?
This is one that I actually completely forgot about the song until a year ago. I was watching Friends. Like, I never watched that show, but I was going, through the episodes on like Netflix, and they used this song in the finale for season 1 when Rachel. I don't know if you're familiar with that show. Where Rachel.
Oh yeah.
She was going to go talk to Ross about how she knew that he was into her and she was into him, but then he gets off the plane and he's with that Julie. But they used this Madonna song, "Take a Bow," and I was like, "Oh, that's actually a really good, like, soft kind of ballady song." And and then I looked it up and I was like, I noticed some facts about that. She wrote the song with a Babyface. I guess his name is Kenneth Edmonds, and she had wanted to kind of change her image again. Like, she had the image in the 80s, like the Material Girl. Then she was really like sexed up and stuff. So I guess she wanted to kind of tone down the sexed up, and she had the album Bedtime Story. So she wrote all the songs with Babyface. And that song, "Take a Bow," was number 11, or it was her 11th number 1 hit on the Hot 100.
Nice. I remember Babyface quite a lot. I can't remember his songs, but I definitely remember the name. It's one of those things, if I heard him, I knew I would remember him. Or would know him.
With me, I was kind of familiar with him being like a singer. I didn't know that he was like a producer and a writer for other artists, but I guess he's actually like, he's had more of a career doing that. Like, I guess working like behind the scenes in the studio.
Well, a lot of people are kind of better at that. That's like Timbaland. He can really do some good pop production and get a lot of hits, but I've never really known of him to make tons of success like on his own singles. Not as much.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that is a good example. So who's your 21?
My 21 came from the band Live, and that is Lightning Crashes.
Oh, man, I was debating like having Live on there because I do like a lot of their songs. I just couldn't like narrow down which one I liked more because it's like that album is just so good.
Oh yeah, Throwing Copper and Secret Samadhi are like almost neck and neck with me as far as my favorite Live albums that I've heard. I'm still missing a lot of their albums as far as listening to them all the way through, but Lightning Crashes, that's always. I went back and forth between that and I Alone off of the album that I really, really love as well. But I ended up picking Lightning Crashes, I think, because it's a better known song and I probably know more of the words to it than that as well. Oh gosh, and now I'd forgotten All Over You is on that as well. Man, that's a really good album.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one came out in 94.
Another 94 album. See, that year's like huge.
Yeah, it's funny when you mentioned that idea for me. That didn't make it on the list or if it did, I forgot about it. I found this like list of 94 albums, and of the ones on that list, like I had several I liked, but not as much that I wanted to do an episode regarding it. But I really don't think this album was on that list for some reason. Somehow they must have blanked on it.
Huh. Yeah, I really like you mentioned. Oh, is it Secret Samadhi? I really like that Lakini's Juice song.
Yes. Yeah, that one, and let me get back to the discography. That was a follow-up. It was a 97 album, and Lakini's Juice was great. Rattlesnake had a really good vibe. I can't remember the names of the other songs off of it I liked, but I just thought it had a really good rockin' vibe. Not as many good singles off of it, but really fun rockin' vibe, and drums were just really good on it. But it's been so many years, I can't think of the names of the ones I like so much. Must have been one of those I just listened to in my car, so I'm not seeing the track list. So that's one of the songs.
Wasn't one Turn My Head? Was that on Samadhi?
It was. There was also a really funny named Hero Psycho Dreamer, all one word.
I think you're going really like hard, or at least more alternative and like hard 90s, and I'm kind of like the ballady. Like, I like Madonna. Take a Bow.
Well, it's because I'll be honest. I made half my list just off the top of my head, just songs and so a lot of those were rockin' songs, and then I pulled in a couple lists to finalize my others. And so that did bring in a little more pop. So there is some more pop hidden on mine, but yeah, it's I do have a lot of rock on mine. But I did make sure most of them were pretty big hits. Lightning Crashes. I'm trying to remember what number that came in. It said it was pretty high. But there's no shame ever for Madonna. I like Madonna. I just hadn't been as big into her. Although I did buy the was it Music or was it one of the others I bought the single for? It was around that era. It was of Madonna. Yeah. So what do you have next? I guess number 20.
Number 20? This would be one. I had mentioned her before to you off air in like messages, and I did not like this artist in the 90s. Like, I was just like, I was disgusted. I'm like, every time I was going to school, my mom was taking me to school, and I'd hear this song, and like, I didn't like her. But then there's one radio station that used to be in town. It was like, I don't know if you have like a Bob FM or like Mike or like one of those names where they're like, they just kind of have like a jukebox kind of playlist, and they'll play like a lot. Well, we have one in town. It used to be Jack FM, and they said, it's Jack FM. We play what we want. And they'd play like hits from the 80s and the 90s and some from the 2000s. Well, then I kind of got into this artist more recently, hearing her songs, and it's Alanis Morissette. And so the song that I've got at number 20 is Head Over Feet.
Nice.
It's one that like I completely like. I guess even hearing her songs on the radio, you know, there's Ironic, and there's a bunch of other ones. Well, she's got like I think 6 singles from Jagged Little Pill, and this one. It actually didn't even, it didn't qualify for the Hot 100 because I guess I was kind of confused. The Hot 100s is like, were singles, I guess, that were released, you know, and you could purchase them. And then there was another chart that was radio-only single. So I guess this was a radio-only single, and it wasn't one that was like, you know, sold. So this is why I guess it's confusing. It was number 1 on the top 40 mainstream, but it wasn't on the Hot 100 at all. But yeah, Head Over Feet. So
nice. I actually almost used that song on my 90s episode, just having a 90s song that I don't think she made it either one of our lists, but we did. I think she was on the soundtrack or something that Miranda mentioned. Or a compilation, I think it was a compilation, a Grammys compilation, had a Alanis Morissette song on there, and that was one of the songs that I love off that album, is Head Over Feet. So
yeah, a couple of years ago, I got like super into her. Yeah, it was probably like 2 years ago, or either 2 or 3 years ago, I got super into her. So I bought the Jagged Little Pill album, and I realized just how like strong it was. And then I found out that she'd released like a 10th anniversary edition where she did like an acoustic version of all the songs on there. So they kind of stripped them down, and I bought that too. And I'm like, man, those are. She had some really good material, and so now I'm a fan. Whereas I not be probably like 20 years ago.
Yeah, I remember liking her stuff in the 90s, but it wasn't until like the early 2000s I think I listened to that album all the way through, just on like a band trip. Because our marching band, we would play. Most of the games were probably only like 2 hours away, but there was occasionally we'd have like a good 4 or more hour drive. And so, we'd just be swapping CDs on the bus. That was one my friends had, and I was like, I couldn't get over how good that was. But she's definitely one in recent years I've come to respect even more, whether hearing it in soundtracks or whatever. I know, I cannot remember the name of the song, but there's one on Clerks too. It was a Alanis Morissette song, but I'm blanking on which one it was. I can I can picture the scene and everything, but I cannot think of the song off the top of my head. Awesome. I'm glad she made your list.
Yeah, like I was debating on even going higher too, but I didn't. I was trying to work it in there.
Okay. Well, it's kind of cool. My number 19 is a female singer, and that is in the band The Cranberries.
Oh.
And I put the song Dreams. When you first mentioned the 94 idea, I was just going through all this stuff, and I saw their 94 album was very loaded with hits. And actually, I wanted to listen to it, but then I was looking at Better Deals, and I found their greatest hits, like a really 18 track listed greatest hits thing on Amazon. I could buy for like $6, so that's what I grabbed, and I've been listening to a lot off and on. It was called Stars, the best of the Cranberries. But it was hard for me to pick, but I only came up with Dreams because that was just a really iconic 90s song, and one I've heard in a lot of movies, and it just, I don't know, hits me in the feels. It's just a really good song. I would go with Linger or Zombie a little bit more, but on my most recent listen, Dreams was the one that stood out the most to me.
Yeah, that is a really good song. I like Linger a lot too.
I do, yeah. Linger probably most days is my favorite by them, but like I said, most recent listen, Dreams just a little above it. And I think it's because of movies and shows and stuff, because I can't remember. I've heard it in something not too long ago.
Yeah, like I guess I can go out of my way to listen to the Cranberries, but if they come on the radio, like I guess I don't really turn them off.
Right.
But it is one that really, takes you back.
Yeah, they're not one I remember like ever owning any of their stuff until now, but I heard those three songs in particular a lot. And I knew they charted really high in the 90s. So who do you have for number 18?
Number 18, so I guess I recently had probably the biggest female artists in the 90s. Now I've got the biggest pop icon. And it's funny, he also had a pretty big November in 1991, as this was a lead single from his album Dangerous. Coming in at number 18, I've got Michael Jackson, Black or White.
Nice.
And I found out that, when that song was debuted in November, it started at number 35, and then it went to number 3 in its second week. And by its third week, it was number 1, and it lasted for 7 weeks, all the way into 1992. And at the time, he was the only solo artist to have a number 1 in the 70s, 80s, and the 90s. So that's pretty big.
That's awesome.
I'm thinking Elton John would have matched that, though, because he obviously would have had stuff in the 70s, 80s, and then 90s later, because he probably would have had, I think, Lion King. If that probably charted, that probably would have went to number 1.
Oh, yeah.
But Michael did it first.
Nice. Well, my number 17 came from a band that we've talked about before. I don't remember if it was on air or just us talking, and that is the Gem Blossoms. Follow You Down.
Yeah, the one with the harmonica, right? That's how it kicks off.
Yes, actually, yeah. I wasn't even thinking about that, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so that would be on the harmonica song list too.
I didn't even think about that. I listened to like 4 or 5 different Gem Blossom songs, argue with myself which one I wanted. They have a really good live album from just a few years ago. And of course they covered a lot of their 90s stuff. Dang it, I bumped the wrong button. Go ahead, what?
Oh, I think maybe we were talking to about the Gin Blossoms, you and I, because the Alice Cooper show that was on the previous episode where we were ranking concerts.
Mm-hmm.
I saw them in concert at the Alice Cooper show with Sammy Hagar and Korn.
That's right. That still makes me laugh. Just the Korn is the one that feels so out of place with Jim Blossoms, but I guess Korn kind of makes sense in context of Alice Cooper. But yeah, the one I'm looking.
Then everybody was on their feet rocking out for like Korn and Sammy, and then everybody seriously sat down for the Gin Blossoms.
Oh, were they into it at all?
Like, we were into it, but I guess maybe it was fatigue from being on your feet for the other bands. That
right.
Maybe it was just bad placement. Like, you put Gin Blossoms on after them. Maybe they should have opened.
Yeah, I argued with myself over Until I Fall Away and Hey Jealousy, and maybe it was just those three, but I had a hard time. I love Allison Road, but that one wasn't quite as high.
Yeah, I agree.
So who would be your number 16?
Number 16, this was like a last-minute addition. I think it's one I was telling you about, because I think technically the song, they wrote it in the 80s, but it didn't get officially released in North America until the 90s on the Pretty Woman soundtrack. It is Roxette, It Must Have Been Love. Some more ballads from Andy, I guess.
No shame in that. I didn't go that route as much, but I definitely appreciate some great ballads.
Yeah, like that's the real one. Or I mean, that's one that gives me like, I guess as you would say, it gives me the feels. So.
Yeah, I honestly more said that joking earlier, but I mean, it was an honest feeling I had, but I just wanted to be silly and use that thing because I have sadly kind of accommodated that term, even though I originally hated it. And it's not really hard to say. I get the feelings from something, but yeah, trying to be hip. You know, as we get older, we got to keep in with the lingo. And which song was it by Roxette? You said? Sorry,
It Must Have Been Love.
Okay. Oh, here it is. I see it.
It was actually number 2 of the year for 1990. So, yeah, it was a pretty huge hit for them.
Nice. I'm bookmarking some of these songs to check out later because some of them don't register immediately when I hear them, or like when I hear the name, but I know if I hear the song, I'll know it. Well, my next pick could not be any more different probably than yours, and that is going to be at 15, Kid Rock.
Oh, okay.
What were you going to say? Don't tell you too.
I was going to say, don't tell me it's Cotton Eye Joe.
Oh, no. That would not make my list. That was sadly on a compilation I had, but I did not put it there. Somebody made the CD for me, and I was like, why? But no, it's Kid Rock's Ba with the Ba. That was the first song I remember from him, and I loved that song when it came out. And I still dig it if I hear it. Like, it's not one I really ever seek out a whole lot, but I remember a few years ago, it might have just been 2 years ago, not quite, me, Greg, and Russell were on a road trip, I think after visiting our friend Garner, and we were just driving back, and I was going through some just random stuff on my phone, and we went on, on a Kid Rock phase where we listened to that, Cowboy, and a couple others, and yeah, I still dig those songs way too much.
Yeah, like that's another guy, Kid Rock. Like I was kind of into him, yeah, when that came out, like what 99 and then like 2000, because even wrestling, like I think Greg would tell you, like they used Kid Rock's like American Badass for like a wrestling theme for a while, and I think they used like another one too. So, or I think Jeff Jarrett had a knockoff of Cowboy for a while. So it's like I was pretty into Kid Rock. And he's not somebody that I'm into now, but I won't change the station if I hear Kid Rock.
Right. Yeah, it looks like Devil Without a Cause, which it came out in 98. But yeah, you were right with it. 99 was when Ba with the Ba came out. He had 2 songs before it actually hit in 98, but that album got a lot bigger in 99 because Ba With The Ba in April, and then in August, Cowboy. And that one definitely skyrocketed, and then even followed up with even more popular, or at least equally popular, Only God Knows Why. So he killed it with that album, but that makes sense that it was on wrestling. I know a lot of wrestling opening songs, or intro songs will be, the hard rock style.
Yeah, and then didn't that album, it had like Wasting Time, I think, which I liked at the time, but then later as I got older, I got into Fleetwood Mac, and I think he like sampled.
He had to.
That song.
Yeah, it's got Lindsey Buckingham listed on the credits, so he must have sampled. Which he loves sampling stuff. There's so many classic rock songs he samples. On one of his newer albums, I can't remember who it was. Even Eminem did that on like some Eminem's not newest album, but one or two back. He did some like 70s or early 80s rock, and I was like, what? Not something I expected.
Good choice with Kid Rock.
Thank you. Yeah, that was one of my later additions. I was just in the car driving around, and that popped in my head, and I'm like, so I made a really quick voice note in my phone, and so it almost didn't make it to my list, and then I remembered to check my phone, and that's how I knocked a couple others off with that and one other song. So who's number 14?
This is one at 14. I kind of made like a rough draft, like scribbled out songs that I wanted to have, and then I kind of went through later and organized them. So this was actually the first song that I wrote down, but it didn't make my number one. But when we were talking about Batman movie soundtracks, it's Seal's Kiss from a Rose.
Nice.
From Batman Forever.
Yes. Glad you put that one out. Yeah, and I was glad you mentioned it to me and off air, because that would have made my list otherwise. But I definitely was trying to avoid duplicates. So when you said that, I'm like, okay, it hadn't made my list yet, and I can steer around it. I love that song.
Yeah, and then what's interesting is when I was looking up like the Wikipedia page about it, it was originally released on his album in like 94, but then it got re-released on the Batman soundtrack, and when they re-released it, that's when it really took off, and it was a Song of the Year and Record of the Year at the Grammys, and then also it says that he originally wrote it in 87, but he didn't like it, and he put it aside until his producer, I guess, was like, hey, you should release this song. So it's kind of crazy that he didn't want to even do anything with it, and then it turned out to be like a Grammy Award-winning song, and like this huge hit.
I bet he's very happy his producer recommended that. That's really funny. But it just proves sometimes you can't tell what's going to be a hit sometimes, or at least the musician can't. Sometimes record producers are really good at that just because they've been in the business for so long and they know what sells.
Yeah, and I guess, taking off with Batman, too. I mean, it's so linked to that soundtrack and that movie.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I took off the U2 song, because that was kind of on like my rough draft version, the Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, but I was like, I don't want to, even though it's separate artists, it's still on the same album, so I didn't want to double up too much, because we only got 20 spots, so I wasn't going to, hit an album twice.
Right. Yeah, I did the same thing. I avoided duplicate entries from the same album. Because, when I finished my list yesterday, it really saddened me that when I got down to number one, I'm like, no! I have like 5 still written down that I had more in my head, but I had like 5 that were on paper I had to like not use. I just added several towards the end and before I started numbering. So my number 13, lucky number 13, is REM, Losing My Religion.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was one I dug, and I remember hearing it everywhere in the 90s. And it had, what instrument? It's like either a weird tuning, or is it, maybe it's just a weird tuning, but a really kind of interesting sound to it.
I think I remember that video being on. I remember seeing it, like VH1 used to have like the pop-up video or facts. I think I saw it on there, And they might have had it on Beavis and Butthead, too.
Nice. I know I used to do my REM thing. Like, I mixed that with my Scott Weiland and can get some really interesting lead singer dance moves. I get bored sometimes, so I entertain myself in front of a mirror with my rock star persona, which is very different than my real persona.
Yeah, I kind of do that too. Like, I get down more to music, I guess, when I'm in my bedroom or whatever. But I don't do any moves like around anyone else.
It depends on who I'm around. If I'm really comfortable around somebody, I will. But I know some of my friends are like, "I think I've seen all your dance moves." I'm like, "No, I promise you haven't." There's some that I don't break out around anybody.
So, what's next then on your?
No, you're next.
Oh, yeah.
12.
I guess this is another soundtrack song, and it's from the Goo Goo Dolls. So you can probably guess what it is. It's from the City of Angels soundtrack.
Oh yes, Iris.
February 1998, the Goo Goo Dolls with Iris.
Nice.
It ranks number 39 on Rolling Stone's list of the 100 greatest pop songs, and it was also ranked in 2012. I guess Billboard had it at number 1 on the top 100 pop songs from 1992 to 2012. Because I guess it was ranking the first 20 years of the mainstream top 40 charts. And then it says the list also featured Goo Goo Dolls' Slide was number 9, and Name was number 24. And it says the Goo Goo Dolls are the only musicians to have 3 songs on that list, with 2 breaking into the top 10 and 3 making the top 25.
Nice. Yeah, I remember me and Miranda talked about that album because that was on my list of 90s albums, Dizzy Up the Girl. And we talked about, I remember it took me forever to come up with the name of City of Angels. I'm like, I know it was a second. It's like, it's Nick Cage. It's like, I've never seen it, but I know about it. And that's
yeah, that was one instance where I was listening to your show and I was like, City of Angels. I was like shouting along. But it's like you're listening to it, so you can't really interact. But I'm like, I was following along pretty intently.
Well, good. Yeah, I interact with shows all the time, and then I'm like, crap, they can't hear me. But yeah, Iris, I don't know why it took me so long to think of City of Angels, other than the fact that I haven't seen the movie. But I do remember that kind of prolonging that song's popularity, but I love Iris. Well, along that same style, slightly, kind of, sort of, will be my number 11, and that is going to be Hootie and the Blowfish, Only Want to Be With You. It's definitely one of my all-time favorite Hootie songs. And I made a little note. One of the funniest lines that stands out to me. Why do the dolphins make him cry? I wonder that. That's a line in the song that I'm like, okay, I wonder why they do.
Maybe the Miami Dolphins. I don't know.
Maybe. But I thought that was a funny thing. But yeah, only Want to Be With You. It's off of their biggest album, Cracked Rearview Mirror. Or was it just Cracked Rearview? I can't remember. Anyway, but that's their big album. I think it was 92, wasn't it? Let's see. Do you like Hootie and the Blowfish?
See, that's one thing. I give you props for putting them on there because I didn't even think of them at all. Actually, yeah, I've never even listened to a Hootie album. I've only heard their songs on the radio, but I've kind of wanted to now because the last decade, Darius Rucker, he's like a country singer, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I always need to go revisit Hootie and the Blowfish, but then I never actually do. I just only think of it when I've heard his country song. So I need to write that down. Or as what you did, I said you made like a note on your phone, like a voice note.
Mm-hmm.
I think I need to do that. Or I need a tape recorder, just dictate things. Because I always think of things, and then I'm so like absent-minded or something, I don't think of stuff right away.
Yeah, I have the little memo section of my phone. I'll make memos if I'm sitting at my desk or at a red light, but I'm going down the road. I just press the voice recorder part of my phone and just make notes. Or back when I was making jingles more, I would make jingles going down the road because just stuff hits me randomly. And if I don't put it down right that second, it's going to leave me. And it might leave me for good. So I have to make little notes. But yeah, their first album, 94, Cracked Review, is just nothing but hits. It's got Hold My Hand, Let Her Cry, Only Want to Be With You, Time. And is there anything else?
Yeah. Dang, that sounds like Alanis, where you're like, dang, they had like that song and that song.
Yeah, I mean, any of their huge hits is on there. Their follow-up, Fairweather Johnson, was a really good album, but I can't remember if it had any...
Fairweather Johnson?
Yes.
Sounds like the title.
I don't really see any big... those songs don't really resonate as far as singles. But they had a lot of good songs. I dig them a lot, and always enjoyed his voice. He's one that falls in my range easily. The only want to be with you. It's kind of similar enough to Scott Stapp that I can just do it in my sleep just about. Because Creed's something I've sung along with way too much.
Yeah, well, I feel like I let you down, though, because I said I've never listened to a Hootie album, and you were like, oh.
Well, I kind of exaggerated that, but it is a little shocking. And I know you love 90s music, and that's just a band that I always associate with the 90s.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I was too into like the hard rock in the 90s that like I dismissed all the kind of some of the stuff like that. Like I'm saying like Alanis or Hootie, I like dismissed it all. And now that I'm older, like I think I would appreciate it more than I did then.
Oh, there's a lot of music I'm that way with, because most of the time in the 90s I was looking more for the rock stuff, but then occasionally I would still slip in there and enjoy more pop. One of my first CDs I bought, I'm so embarrassed to admit, but I guess I will right here on the air. Or on the air. Yeah, like we're live. That'd be but I'm not going to cut it out. I bought Hanson's first big album. And so that was like made no sense alongside any other of my first CDs. But, you know, so sometimes we just like some pop stuff and sometimes we dismiss it because we're too stuck on the rock. But I've been guilty of both. More so the rock than the pop, but.
So did Mbop make your list? We're nearing the top 10 now. So is that going to be?
No, it didn't make my list, actually.
Mine neither. But my number 10 is how I said I guess I had huge, like I've had Madonna, Alanis, and like Michael Jackson. This is another huge artist that's on my list. And number 10, I guess it is the title track to his album, Human Touch. And it was released on the same day as another album. So he put out two albums on the same day in March of 1992, Lucky Town and Human Touch.
And who is this?
Oh, it was the boss, Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, okay, nice. I didn't realize he did that. That's cool. Or, I mean, I didn't know he did them at the same time. Yeah.
I didn't know that either. Like, I knew he had those albums, but I didn't know they came out on the same day. I guess he was working on one album, and he put it aside to work on another one, and then he finished them both up and was like, all right, I'll just put them out together.
And so which song did you pick? Sorry, I missed it somehow.
It was Human Touch.
Human Touch is another song. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that is also another one. See, like, man, I guess I was all over the place with that introduction. But that was another one I was going to do as my long distance request and dedication. My friend Brent, he is a huge Bruce Springsteen fan, and I was kind of like just into like whatever I'd hear on the radio. I never went any deeper. But Brent, he's got such like an extensive record collection that I just kind of dove in, borrowed some of his stuff, and I got a bigger appreciation for the boss.
Nice. I desperately need to go listen through his studio albums. I've got a few mixes Greg made for me, just trying to get me into the Bruce, and some of the songs definitely hit me and I really love, but I just never have dug out any of his full-length albums. But I love a lot of his stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just so much. He's probably one that I guess, too, would have been maybe... I don't think that this song, Human Touch, hit the number 1. Yeah, it was the highest hit chart. It was number 16. But I'm thinking he might have had that song from Philadelphia. It might have been number 1. So he would have been another guy that would have had number 1 in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Nice.
So who do you got next for number 9?
For number 9, I have a band that I know you like a lot, and I do too. I don't really know what number this one got to. I could look it up, but I don't have it in front of me. But that is Guns N' Roses with November Rain.
Ooh. Oh, yeah, they also did the same thing, 2 albums on the same day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the Use Your Illusion Volume 1 and 2. I remember, like, that video, that was during some part of the time I was watching TV all the time, and I just remember that video all the time being on.
Yeah, like, I really like that where, like, the song's awesome, but I love the last little part where they it almost, like, slows down and then boom, it really kicks in. Man,
like,
I love that.
Kind of after the piano part and everything? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you think the song's basically going to wrap up, and nope. It just goes all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I meant. I guess it sounds like the song's kind of wrapping up.
Wow. Nope. According to Wikipedia, the song is 8 minutes and 57 seconds. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but if that is, that's incredible. I knew it was a long song. I remember driving my friend Nick. His wife drove her crazy because we were so into that song one day, and we were just jamming out to it that she swears we listened to it 3 times in a row. I'm not sure it was 3 times, but whatever. If it was, that's 27 minutes, so I can imagine that driving someone crazy if they weren't as big into it. But that is a song we both enjoy quite a lot. I almost put Don't Cry instead because my brother had that on a CD single, and I loved that one as well. But I went with the better-known one of November Rain.
Which one do you like more? Use Your Illusion 1 or 2?
Oh, gosh. Probably 1. But it's been a while since I've listened to both. Which one's your favorite?
I used to go number 2, but now I'm thinking number 1, and now it almost sounds like a bathroom joke.
I'm glad you went there because I was thinking the same thing.
But yeah, like I think I like Use Your Illusion 1 more because I guess it's got Dust and Bones on there. And then isn't the Wings cover, Paul McCartney cover on there?
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Just for clarification, guys, when I had to do a quicker middle break for the show, I went number 1. Let me see. Use Your Illusion. Yeah, Live and Let Die was the second song from that, or the second single from Use Your Illusion Volume 1. Because it was Don't Cry, Live and Let Die, and then November Rain. Wow, that's incredible.
Oh, I think they got one on Use Your Illusion 1 with Alice Cooper. The Garden is on that one too. So yeah, like I guess I'd go with Use Your Illusion 1.
Oh, okay. The Garden of Eden?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Or I think there's The Garden, and then there's Garden of Eden. So they got 2 kind of similar sounding titles on the same album, I think anyways.
I don't see the Garden. Oh, here it is. My bad. Yeah, I see it towards the end. That is strange. Yeah, they're back. The Garden at number 11 and 12 is Garden of Eden. That's how I overlooked it. Cool.
Yeah. Either of them like would be a good answer though. You could go either way.
Yeah. Well, who do you have for number 8?
Number 8, I'm veering. I'm veering big time into pop category here, or whatever, big into pop territory, because I kind of have left the rock behind now. But this would probably be like the biggest slow dance song of the 90s. I think it's Vanessa Williams and saved the best for last.
Nice. Okay.
It was number 1 on the Hot 100 for 5 weeks, and number 4 year end of '92. So
nice.
Yeah, it's just a really good like pop song. I don't know why I like it, but I do. It's just one of those ballads. And then at the same time, I think it kind of reminds me of what my friend Bill, like he says about me. I've got like a hard rock exterior, but an easy listening core.
Okay.
So, yep, that's my number 8. I don't have anything else to say, just that I really like it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't recall that one off the top of my head, so I can't really say anything. Well, my number... I know I'll know it if I hear it.
Know it if you heard it, yeah.
Yeah. My number 7 is Counting Crows, Mr. Jones. That's one of those fun songs that is so fun to hit the high note to, because it's one of those where he just kind of jumps up randomly, Mr. Jones. I always like exaggerate it, is how I always do it. And it's not quite that high when he does it, but it's always been the way I do it.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Counting Crows and then live, because I think they're on tour this year.
Really? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Together?
Yeah.
That is, I would never pair them together. I imagine it works, but it just sounds kind of strange, honestly.
I wanted to see him, but I guess I was just seeing like a bunch of tours already this year. I'd already spent enough money, so it just didn't work out. But
right.
But yeah, good choice for your number 7.
Thank you. Yeah, it's one of those feel good songs. I know after a breakup, I remember all my friends, I got to was hanging out with them like that same day, and one of the albums he had was the greatest hits by Counting Crows, and so I don't know, that kind of found comfort in that album. So who is your number 6?
Number 6, it is from Duran Duran. It was their second single from the Wedding album, and this one was kind of like I always kind of liked Duran Duran when I was a kid. Like they had like the Reflex and some of those dancey songs. But this is kind of like a move away into almost like adult contemporary. It was a Come Undone. Okay. And it was number 7 on the Hot 100. That's the highest it charted.
They're not a band I'm as familiar with. Tell me the name of the song one more time. Duran Duran.
Come Undone.
Come Undone.
I was going back and forth on that one or Ordinary World. I think Ordinary World was a bigger hit. But they're on the same album.
Okay. I'll have to check that out. I'm sure it's one of those I'll know when I hear it.
Yeah, it's got like a distinct kind of... you'll know Ordinary World, too. That one's kind of softer. There's a lot of like guitar in it, but then Come Undone's more of kind of like a atmospheric dancey song a little bit.
Okay. Well, I'm going to head on to my number 5, and that is a band that you mentioned much earlier on the list, and that is the Wallflowers. But I went with One Headlight.
I was wondering when they were going to pop up.
Yeah, because I didn't do as much research for exactly how high up they came on the list, I just kind of was going off, just having fun with placing them. Honestly, I went more. Some of it was I was putting it towards the top, and some of it I was just kind of trying to spread out the songs to make the styles more unique. But yeah, that's my Wallflowers song, and one of the other amazing songs off of Bringing Down the Horse.
Yeah, it's a really good album, too.
So I really don't have anything else to add about that one since we talked about them a little earlier. So what is your number 4?
Number 4, this is one that it's kind of like the Vanessa Williams song. It's like a love song, and I don't know, it's probably one that you couldn't escape in the 90s. It was released on November 14th, 1995 as the second single from her album Daydream, It's Mariah Carey with Boyz II Men, One Sweet Day.
Nice. You just made Greg Phillips' day whenever he listens to this. As he is probably one of the biggest Mariah Carey fans that I know.
I don't know if I'm a huge Mariah Carey fan, but I like Boyz II Men, and that was one of my first CDs. Was Kool-Aid High Harmony. So I had to give him some love in some way on here too.
Nice. I actually have seen them in concert, like 2 songs, and it wasn't that they were bad, but it was at a festival, and so we just were floating around from stage to stage, because like we started at the rock stage, and then a couple of bits that we didn't really want to see, so that's when we started floating around, and we were at their stage for just a little while. I can't remember which songs we actually heard that night, but it was like right before it started storming too, so then I don't remember if it was during their show or one that soon after, but I remember something getting rained out.
What kind of festival was it? Was it like a bunch of different kind of genres, or just that kind of?
There were a few genres. There was the rock stage with that had the band we went for more than anything was I just blanked on them. It'll come back to me. Anyway, I know. I want to say Joan Jett was going to be the headliner that night if we'd stayed all night. So no, that wasn't the night it got rained out. It was the second night it got rained out. I remember the band we disappeared for, and I don't mean any harm towards them, but it was Crossfade. When they came on was when we moved on. But Evans Blue, that was the band we were there for.
I think I remember. Didn't they have something like, it was about 10 years ago? They had like one song.
Yeah, their biggest song was around that time. Let's see, it was 2000. Actually, it was 2006 was the biggest album. And that was Cold. Came out in the end of 2005. I think it was pretty big in that year. Let me see the second album if it had anything big on it. I was really big into the singer for a while there. He actually left the band after their second album. But it's definitely more depressing hard rock. But they end up getting a new lead singer.
The same style as like Breaking Benjamin, right?
Kind of, sort of, but I find them way more depressing. Like Breaking Benjamin, I think, can be depressing, but they have a lot of anger in theirs. Evans Blue almost sounded more like he had more anger at himself. At least the way I interpreted a lot of it. But yeah, let me see. They were on the rock stage, but they had a lot of country bands on the country stage, probably pretty popular at the time. And then Boyz II Men was on. I don't know if it was really a full R&B stage or not, but there were at least 3 stages. It was in Huntsville, Alabama. They did it for several years. I went one of the later years and saw that. There's also a band I really dug that never made it big. That was Dropping Daylight. They actually were the first opening. It was one of those bands that had one album, disappeared for a long time, and like rebranded. And I didn't dig their new stuff. Not what I heard of it. But yeah, it was just a little outdoor festival. Like I said, at least 3 stages. And I went to, I guess that would have been like 2006 or 2007 that I went.
I do have one little interesting thing, or maybe it's not really interesting, but with the Mariah Carey Boyz II Men song, it was number 1 on the Hot 100. It was number 8 of the decade, but it was number 2 on the year-end charts, I think, for 1996. And then, can you guess? Like, I went to look because I think Wikipedia lists like a little chart, but then I had to go a little bit deeper to find out what had made the year-end charts for that year in 96. And I was kind of like surprised at first what made number 1, but I was like, oh God. Like, do you want to take a guess at what the number 1 song was that beat that out?
No, I'm having a blank in my brain right this second, so no. What is it?
The Macarena.
Oh my God, I wouldn't have got that.
I guess I've tried to just block out that song entirely.
That's a good idea. That is one that I haven't thought about in several years. I was happy when dances stopped having that one.
I think my grade school, so yeah, it would have been like 7th grade or something. The song was so popular that like in like PE, like we had to learn line dancing. We had to learn the Macarena dance in PE. It was like the most awful experience I've ever had in junior high.
That's amazing. I'm from Alabama, and I don't remember doing line dancing in PE, so that's pretty funny. Maybe we did, and I just forgot. When I was young, I probably would have been too embarrassed to do it, so I probably would have found a reason to sit out, but I don't remember ever doing that in PE.
It just seemed like I guess at the time, being like 12 or 13, it's like the song was annoying, but then you have like this old who's like trying to be hip and like teach you the popular song at the time, and it's like, no, don't.
That makes me think of when our band director chose Mambo No. 5.
That almost made my list, but I took it off the rock set.
I didn't even think of it, honestly, until just right now. It's kind of sad, but I just remember when you mentioned somebody trying to be hip, our band director never picked modern songs, but that song was still a really big hit. Like that stuff from the Titanic soundtrack during our concert band made it. And I remember having so much fun playing bass drum to that, to Mambo No. 5. Like that I chose that. Like normally I played snare or something else, but that one I'm like, no, I want to do bass. It's fun. So when he wasn't looking, I'd be like dancing and playing the drum.
Too bad you weren't playing the trumpet. The trumpet.
Nice.
Spot.
And funny enough, that was actually my second pick of instrument if I had not gotten drums, but I got drums. Honestly, I don't think I would have stuck with band if I'd gotten anything else. But, well, let's move on. That was number 4, wasn't it?
Yep. So you got 2 more left.
Yeah. Sorry, I went way off on the Boys to Men. I love Boys to Men, so I guess it's good on me.
I did with the Macarena too. So.
So to be clear, Macarena is not on our list that we just talked about it randomly. All right, so I'm going to go back to the only duplicate artist we've had so far, and that is going to be the only other one we've had 2, and that is going to be Alanis Morissette with "You Learn."
Oh, awesome!
Also off of Jagged Little Pill. We don't have much to say about it. It's just a great song. If you know the song, you know how great it is. If you don't, look it up because it's a really catchy, fun song.
Huh, so I was afraid we were going to overlap. I guess we did overlap, but just with 2 artists, not
right.
Actually songs. So yeah, good job.
Yeah, I was really nervous earlier when you first mentioned, who was it?
The Wallflowers?
Wallflowers, yeah. I knew it was going to be One Headlight and when it was, and I was so happy. Which I have my backup songs I could have, if I'd had. Luckily I didn't. So what's your number 2?
Number 2, my big pick for the Sunday Top 40 Countdown. It is going back to 1997, lead single from their self-titled album, Savage Garden's I Want You.
Nice. That's almost put them on my list.
Pop song of the 90s.
Is the what?
It's my number 1 pop song of the 90s.
Yes, nice. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. That came so close to getting my list, so I'm happy it made yours.
Yeah, I'd always liked that song, and I think my mom, it was one of the things where I was at school in another town, so when I was in grade school, so my mom, we'd have like a 20-minute or half an hour car ride to school, so sometimes I got stuck listening to stuff I didn't like Alanis Morissette. There sometimes we had some good stuff I liked, like Smashing Pumpkins or this Savage Garden album, and then I think there was even a couple others that we had, like I think Garbage. So we kind of had some taste that kind of overlapped a little bit on those car rides, but yeah, so it always takes me back to going to grade school with that Garden song.
Yeah, there were a few songs by them I really dug, and I don't remember if I recorded them from a friend or if I just recorded them off the radio, but I definitely, it was like 3 songs off that album that I had on a cassette.
Yeah, it was like Truly, Madly, Deeply was on that album, I think.
Yes. That was actually my favorite.
Back, maybe.
Hmm?
I think The Moon and Back might have been a single, but I'm not sure.
Maybe, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, cool. Well, do you have any other thoughts on Savage Garden?
Nope. Just that I think it's just a really good pop song. It kind of sums up the 90s in a way.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of Savage Garden that just fits perfectly in the 90s and just kind of in that time capsule of time, if that makes any sense. Well, my number one song was one that's won over TRL all the time during this period of time when I was still watching it. If it wasn't Britney Spears, it's this band. In 1999, Backstreet Boys, I Want It That Way.
Oh, nice. I thought when you said Britney Spears, you're going to say like Christina Aguilera.
Yeah, that would be another pick, but no. And for anybody out there, this is one of those songs that I grew to like way later, and that is just based on my friends having a karaoke CD that we used to do in college. Like we would just have a newspaper office after hours, and it was actually, I guess me, it was like a little after college, but I was still hanging out around the town, and one of my friends made me sing this song with them, and it just kind of became one of our go-to karaoke songs. So that's why it's so high on it. I remember it was being so high on TRL, and then I just kind of became fond of it way after the fact. Because during the time, I was mad anytime the boy bands were dominating the TRL. Because you didn't get that many videos on there anyway. Wasn't that like just like 5 or 7 songs or something? It was...
Yeah, and what they just show half of it, and then they'd have like a picture-in-picture thing, I think, too. I remember too much from TRL.
Something like that. I don't remember for sure. I just remember that was something that was on TV when I'd get off the bus, and it was back before my mom would get home from work, and so I could get away with watching it, because that was definitely during the time she still really didn't want us watching MTV, and which is ridiculous because of my age, but whatever. I'd sneak that just for a few minutes before she'd get home. And
yeah, because they also have like the kind of text that was on a screen, I think, too, or something.
Maybe so.
Probably maybe that was a request that would go by, I think. Oh man, I guess I should have researched TRL.
Maybe I should have too, because I'm not remembering as much as I think I would on that, because that was a big part of my late 90s music. But yeah, so I put this as number one. It was, like I said, one that's fun to sing along with. I've sung it a couple times with my friends. My friend Sam normally still is lead if he's around, because he's a much better singer than probably most anybody I know. But I remember one time doing backup singing for that song. And then, so yeah, that's pretty much it. But last month, I don't remember what all I said for the 1 year anniversary. There were a couple things I got a little nostalgic this week. It might have been listening to the newest Geek and Sassy. They got nostalgic for their 2 year anniversary. I wanted to throw out a little love. With last month was my 1 year of the show, and just wanted to say thanks to Hard Traveling Fanboys, to Russell Sellers, with used to be Sellers Points, about to be Post-Crisis Management, and of course Todd Weber, actually the one who mixes all this, just for kind of talking me into doing a show. I mentioned interest, and they were very quick to just urge me to do it. Was at that point, I mean, there might have been shows that occasionally feature music, but that wasn't any like just music show that I was aware of anyway. Like I think Glenn Butler occasionally does music things, but I think he kind of does some of everything. But
he's most music scores actually too.
I do remember
film scores.
Yeah, I remember that Hard Traveling Boys had him on for a scores episode one time, so I did kind of think that. So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to thank them, and of course Brad, I know he is in charge of the pop feed as well, and he just all were very supportive and giving me the invitation to do this show, and I've gotten a lot out of it, and it's hard to believe this is the 13th one with just doing once a month. That's a pretty big chunk of time. But I want to thank Andy for being here. But before I forget, I want to mention the podcast that I mentioned, Hard Traveling Fanboys and stuff, on the Place to Be Nation Pop. Russell's new show, then Marvel Age with Nick, Russell, Tim, and Todd. Todd's Occasional Conversation Comics, which typically features Tim. And I know they say they're eventually going to get back to that, talking to X-Men. Then Marvel Age Masterclass with Ben Morse. The one I forgot last month, but luckily Andy saved me, Talkin' Pop. It's one of my favorites, but somehow I forget occasionally, and that's Ginny Smith and Tim Capel. Then Geek and Sassy with Miranda and Jenny. A newer one, Freak Out Drive-In, which is Ginny Smith. The first episode I listened to, actually, because it's just such a fun movie, and that's Predator. But she typically goes through horror movies on that one. And then the last one I always forget to mention, but I love listening to it, and that's Songs with Friends. And that's Kelly and Steve, and they're pretty interactive on Twitter whenever I share stuff music-wise and with my show and stuff. So just wanted to throw out some mention of their shows. If you haven't checked those out, check those out. There's plenty of other good stuff on the pop feed, and of course the wrestling feeds, but just those are ones I talk to a good bit, so I wanted to throw out some love to them. So Andy, what do you, I know we mentioned earlier you have Survey Says. What do y'all have coming anytime soon on Survey Says?
Well, we're actually celebrating an anniversary, like 2-year anniversary.
Nice.
And did a show all about Diamond Dallas Page, and we had Andrew Reich on as a guest. And so it was kind of like a big, it was a big show for us, doing 2 years, even though we kind of took a break in the middle, but we've still been hanging in there for 2 years, having fun doing it. So you guys can keep an eye out on that one. I think we're going to be doing a Halloween one too that will be coming up.
Okay, so like a WCW Halloween event or something?
Yeah, because they had Halloween Havoc, which was their annual October pay-per-view. So as we're heading into Halloween, we chose one of those to do.
Nice. I vaguely remember those. I must have just heard them advertised or something. Because I don't think I've ever watched any of the Halloween shows. Most of my wrestling stuff is more modern that I know.
It was a Slim Jim's Halloween Havoc, I think, and they always had it like in Las Vegas.
Nice.
I don't know how that had anything to do with Slim Jim. I think they just sponsored it.
Right. Well, I just can't. Now I'm picturing Randy Savage with the Slim Jim commercials. So what are y'all up to?
We're up to, well, I guess 2 years. It would be 24, but we'll be at the 19th episode when we do the Halloween one.
Nice. Okay.
So it's the 18th one.
Okay. Cool. And how can people reach you? Do you have any social media?
Yeah. I think Tim, I can't remember. He's on Twitter, but I do the Instagram for Survey Says, which is just survey_says. I'll post wrestling clips and stuff.
Nice. Okay. Well, and I am at Sunday Groove PTB on Twitter. Reach out to me on there. Reach out to me on Facebook, just David Sunday, or any of the groups I'm on there. I guess that's it. I actually made notes this time so I wouldn't forget stuff towards the end. As always, if you have any feedback, definitely reach out to me and let me know your thoughts, any recommendations, anything. Heck, if you'd like to be on the show, let me know. I enjoy doing this, and I'll keep on doing this monthly. And I don't know for sure what's coming up next. I know some point in the near future I want to do a Queen episode, because I know Bohemian Rhapsody comes out November 2nd, and that is my most anticipated movie of this year.
Nice.
Huge Queen fan, and I'm so looking forward to seeing how they do that. Everything I've seen from the movie looks really good, so that probably won't be the next episode. It might be my November episode. I don't know for sure. It depends on planning, how the planning goes, and if I remember to plan ahead of time. But thanks for listening, and I will catch y'all down the road.
You were so good.